Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined today at the Pound by Stu Jones, Jamie Edwards, two of the most accomplished boxers in the unlicensed scene in North Wales. Stu Jones, world titles in the unlicensed scene from Holyhead, taking on British Welsh champion Jamie Edwards from Bangor. So we'll start with you, Stu, being the guest from Holyhead. You've had a bit of time out the ring.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your life in boxing.
Yeah, well, I started boxing at the age of 12. Well, 7 really, but competing at 12. I was in Red Dragon ABC for many, many years. I went undefeated in the amateurs for a long time, actually. Suffered my first 2 losses in the amateurs, and then turned my back on that. And then I had a break from boxing then, actually. Came back with Ricky Hatton's gym. That didn't materialise to anything. And then entered the unlicensed scene then. And it's been non-stop. Well, it was non-stop for a few years. And then I've been on a 13-year break now, but coming back against Jamie here. Could have took an easy fight if I wanted to, but that's not the road I want to go down. Not at all.
So that was going to be my next question. First of all, how long have you been out for since you last came back, and why Jamie? What made you call Jamie out?
13. So in 2013, I won that belt there, the WBU world title, Golden Wings world title. And like I say, I did get in contact with another fighter in North Wales because I thought Jamie was lighter than me. But that fighter didn't get back to me at all. He totally ignored me. So I messaged Jamie, and Jamie replied within about 30 seconds saying, yeah, definitely. So I mean, that's why I want it, because I know he's probably one of the most accomplished fighters there is in North Wales and the most exciting. And to top it off, with both southpaws, man. So yeah.
Always interesting. So you were looking for a hard fight, all in all.
Fight, yeah.
So Jamie obviously just fought last weekend. You had your first show. Tell us a little bit about the fight and the show in general. How you thought you got on with it?
Yeah, so the show went really well. Absolute. If I had any hairline, it wouldn't be left now. But it's a good job on ball. But yeah, it was different. Obviously, it's quite stressful just fighting on the show anyway, let alone trying to run the show as well. So obviously, I knew I was going to be fighting Stu, so I matched myself at a little bit of a heavier weight. So the guy came in at like 86. I think I weighed in about 77, 78, something like that, just so I could get used to a bigger person. You know, I'm normally used to fighting at either like middle or middle. So it'll be jumping up a little bit for me. But I felt all right. You know, my body shots still worked. You know, my range was a little bit off just with the height difference. You know, normally I'm quite a big lad for my size, for my weight class. So it was quite nice being the smaller person really, and using that smaller to my advantage. But yeah, everything went really well. I dropped him with a liver shot in the first round. Then he got back up. I didn't think he was going to get back up from it. It was an absolute peach of a shot. And he got back up, and then yeah, didn't rush in. Something I used to do a lot and get caught a lot is rush in straight away once I've hurt someone, trying to be like a bit of a pit bull. Once I taste that blood, just get straight at it. But now I just take my time and I just not rush it, because I always get caught on the way in then when I'm trying to rush a knockout. And then yeah, hit him with a couple of clean body shots again, and yeah, he didn't want it after that. Well, it's not even that he didn't want it. If everyone knows that you can recover from shots to the head, but them shots to the body, there's just no recovery from it, is there? And he said to me when he was on the floor, he said, I've never been hit with a body shot like that. So it just made me feel good, because at the heavier weight class, you know, as you're fighting heavier lads, they can take your shots better. Do you know what I mean? So I know that I can carry that power up, and it's just given me a little burst of confidence, yeah.
So obviously you're speaking about, you know, being experienced and not rushing into things. On the topic of being experienced, Stu, I know you've had over 100 fights, not just in boxing. You've done bare knuckle and no holds barred as fighters as well. So tell me a little bit about how you got into the bare knuckle and the no holds barred as well.
Yeah. So with the bare knuckle, I boxed because of my ego, really. I always had a massive ego. I had a bit of a wild background, but I won this world title for my ego, because I knew everyone would respect me. That's how it was at the time. And I thought I wanted to test myself, because I was winning everyone on the unlicensed scene, you see, back then. So I thought I want to try something else. And I don't know if you've seen that Bashir Faruqi, is it? On Instagram. Well, he got in touch with me and said, oh, do you want to try the no rules? I said, yeah, I'll give it a go. It's right up my street, that. I did 4 of them. I won 4. And then I entered the bare knuckle scene then, because them no rules, I kind of knew there's like limits to what I can do.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They were like yourself. They were coming at me with kicks from angles. I didn't know what to do with a kick. Do you know what I mean? I'm just a boxer. So I thought, I've won 4 out of 4. I'm getting out of that now undefeated. And I went to the unlicensed scene. One of them was in Queensferry on a site there. There was a couple on proper shows, but 2 of them were in hay bales. The other 2 were in an actual ring. And I won 4 out of 4 in that as well. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really tested in each of them disciplines. Wasn't really tested, apart from the kicks on mad angles, on the no rules. But that was easy, man.
So sticking on that topic, you fought in hay bales. It's something not many people will ever do or are used to. How did you find that compared to fighting in a ring?
Well, I'll tell you what they did. Okay, so I didn't tell them they didn't know my experience when I first arranged the fight, and then they found out about my boxing. So they actually made the hay bales a lot smaller. It's meant to be 16 foot, the hay bales. When I got there, they were 10 foot, so I couldn't dance around. So basically, I had to stand toe to toe, basically. But like I say, I wasn't really tested in that bare knuckle at all. I thought they were quite poor, really. It's a bigger sport now. I'm going back to 2010. It wasn't such a big sport then. Underground, it wasn't such a big sport. It's a massive sport now. But back in 2010, I wasn't even tested in that bare knuckle scene, no. Definitely not.
So yeah, Jamie, obviously you've had many fights yourself and you've been back in the game now for a couple of years, haven't you? And, just tell me a little bit about your boxing career. And obviously I know a little bit about it already, but, how you started and your time in the amateurs and your life in boxing, basically, for people that don't know.
Yeah, so my boxing started. My older brother was a boxer all the way through my childhood. And then I always looked up to him. I always wanted to start boxing. But I was just shit scared of doing it. And then I was getting in trouble all the time with the police. Got sent to juvies. I was there from age 17, got out when I was 19. And then my nine hates me boxing now, but it was her idea. She said, you're getting into trouble for fighting all the time. Your brother's a boxer. He doesn't get into trouble. Why don't you give boxing a go? So I started doing that. 6 weeks after putting a pair of gloves on, I had my first fight. And then, my coach at the time, Brian Bark, said the Welsh Championships is in 4 or 5 weeks. He said, but you need to have 2 fights to enter it. So he said, there's a fight in RAF Valley for a belt. So I didn't really see belts much in amateur but back when I was there. So I thought, fucking right, I'll take that straight away. So jumped on that. It was weird, really, because I boxed somebody that I knew that I was mates with. But, it is what it is, and it's only a sport. I'd play football against somebody that I knew. So it's for me, it's no different. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I beat him. And then I got into Welsh Championships, won that. And then, I had an all right time as an amateur and that. But what put me off when I was in the semi-finals of the Welsh Championships and that, I absolutely destroyed the lad. I gave him 3 standing 8 counts. I dropped him twice. And then I got a split decision at the end. And then I just found all the decisions were really snidey. I didn't like there was no showmanship. There was no walkout music. It was always in sports halls. There was no showbiz. There was no glamour. It was just, don't get me wrong, you can box every weekend in amateurs and stuff, but for me, I wanted, 1, to make a little bit of money from it, and 2, I just wanted to feel a little bit more of a showman when I bring people to shows, and I wanted it to be like how it is now. So I crossed over then to Mike Egan's gym. I started boxing under Mike, and just started winning loads of titles. Just boxing as much as I could, fighting whoever. I wasn't bothered about who it was, where it was. We travelled all over the country. I'd lost 1 fight, and that's because I was session. I was in active addiction for most of my boxing career, but I was still training. And I took the fight on 3 days' notice. No, I pulled out, and then I retook the fight again on 3 days' notice. And it was. I thought it could have been a draw, but the thing is, like, I didn't put my best effort, so I probably needed that loss because I haven't lost since. And then I've been clean now for 2 years, so I've been at it now properly for 2 years. I've been putting my 100% effort in now for the last 2 years. Anything else before that, I've won British titles and stuff before that, but it was whilst using. It was with. So for me, I'm not saying it doesn't count, but just for me now, like, I have no excuse. I always had an excuse then if I lost, like, wow, I'm an addict anyway. I'm flat out session. As where now I've got no excuse. Like, I'm fit, I'm training, I'm in the gym all the time. There's just no excuse. So I'd have nothing but myself to blame. So anybody that does beat me is beating the best version of me, and I've got no qualm with that. And I'm just looking at fighting the best people that I can fight. And yes, Stu, just do you know what? I appreciate that. He's called me out, but he just didn't do it like a dickhead. I try not to entertain it if people are being like just chatting shit and stuff, but he just approached me through message and just said, look, I think you're causing a lot of noise on the scene at the moment. You're winning loads of fights. You're one of the best in Wales, and that's what I'm looking back for my comeback. And he's like, I've got a world title. You put my title, you put your title, and you can't say no to that. And I respect him because after having like for me, even a year layoff is a lot. And he's been out of the game for ages, but he's a man's man, and he doesn't want an easy fight, and I got to give respect for that. And I think it's going to be a good fight.
That was going to be my next question. What excites you about fighting someone like Stu? But obviously, you just said the 2 titles on the line is going to be a big thing, isn't it? Just wanted to ask you, Stu. Obviously, Jamie briefly spoke about it then about living in addiction and stuff like that. And I know things have happened in your life that have turned you back to boxing as well. So tell me a little bit about your life and how it's made you come back to boxing. And I believe you're a Christian now and stuff like that. So tell us a bit about that, mate.
Yeah. Okay. So for many years, like Jamie himself, I boxed many fights under the influence of cocaine. And like I say, so we've got a similar opponent in Peter Salami. But the thing is, Peter Salami didn't really fight me because I'd lost that fight before the bell even went. But like things like that still hurt me because I'm a fighting man. Do you know what I mean? But like that was under addiction. Many fights I took under addiction. I won 71, lost 21. And I would say there's only a couple of people that actually beat me, but it's my own fault because I turned up on a night. Do you know what I mean? But because of addiction, and I'm prison as well. Obviously, prison, psychiatric hospitals. It all just spirals. And I think once you start with cocaine, and luckily I didn't drift onto heavier stuff, but once you start with cocaine, and I think you start skipping everything. You don't even look after yourself, never mind train. Do you know what I mean? You can't. You just deteriorate in a big way, massive way. And do you know what I mean? I was taking fights just for money. I was winning titles and forgetting I'd won a title. I was going home without the title. Yeah. And then everyone's like, where's your belt? I said, oh yeah, I won a belt. Somewhere. Do you know what I mean? And somewhere, yeah. I even sold one of my belts before. It's just madness, do you know what I mean? But I'm 3 years clean off alcohol now. I'm a long time clean off cocaine. And you know what? I'm just like, I do shift work in a rehab, and you know what? It's just a full 360. I've never felt so good. I've never felt so positive. And faith in my life is massive. Huge faith is in my life. So I try and live my life, not by the Bible, because the Bible was written 6,000 years ago, but I try and live my life walking in the line of faith, do you know what I mean? Because I truly believe, no offense to you, Jamie, because I respect you, do you know what I mean? But I truly believe with Jesus in my corner, no one can take anything off me, no title, nothing. And that's not me being disrespectful. I just think in December I'll be the best version I've ever been. And if people are struggling when I was in addiction, they've seen nothing now, because I'm totally out of it all now.
It's good that's pushing you on and making you who you are now, mate. That's good to hear. Obviously, like you both said, you struggled with addiction.
Yeah.
Jamie, I know you've said recently that this show in the future now, you're going to have lads that are coming out of recovery that are having their first fights on the show. So tell us a little bit about the recovery unit that you've worked with and some of the lads that are coming out of the first fights on the show.
Yeah, so for me, I was in and out of the NA rooms for, maybe 6 years. My wife, she's been in and out the rooms for 8 years, and we've known each other, and but whilst we were in addiction and that, and we ended up getting into recovery, and that's when we got like a connection together when we were clean. But we met in NA. So Penryn House is they hold meetings, NA, CA, AA and stuff like that, but it's also like a rehab house, but they're not locked off there. Do you know what I mean? So it's like half living in your community and half like so yeah. So I personally think that's a better option for a lot of people, because I know so many people that have been to rehabs and then they come home and then they haven't got that support as much as what they had, and it can lead to relapse and stuff. And yeah, Penryn House just does so much good work. I never ever thought I would get clean, you know, and like as a fighter for me, the hardest thing that I struggled to deal with was a higher power, believing in something greater than myself and surrendering to the disease of addiction. For me, I don't surrender. I'm a fighter, I'm a man's man, I don't surrender. And having that sort of attitude is what kept me in active addiction, for the best part of 20 years. You know, I started smoking weed at the age of 11. You know, I was drinking from the age of 11, 12 and stuff. So it started really early for me. So for me to be able to just say, look, I surrendered, you know, me and my wife, we relapsed together. We ruined each other's lives, and we sat down and we said, look, we either get clean or we leave each other. So from that day, I've never used a drug since. She's never used a drink or drug since either. I say drink and drug, but a drink is a drug to me, you know, in NA. Just because it's highly accessible for me, it's a drug, and that's probably the biggest gateway drug out of them all. But we haven't used a drug since. You know, we did 90 meetings in 90 days for the first 90 days. So we were going to NA every day for 90 days, you know, and yeah, that surrender, and you know, I've got faith now. You know, I pray every day. I believe in God, and that was something. I was a bit of a hypocrite because I believed that my little brother that passed away last December, and you know, he was only in his 20s. He was only young, and I believed that he was in heaven. And I believe my dad that passed away 3 years ago was in heaven, but then I had the cheek to say that I didn't believe in God. You know, and like I'm under Craig Winters now, and he's got a lot of faith, and you know, and he's helped me develop my faith into what it is today. I believe that my wife was brought into my life for a reason, to teach me lessons. I believe that, you know, my son has been brought into my life for a reason. You know, my wife's definitely been brought into my life to teach me patience. That's 100% for sure.
No such thing as coincidence.
No.
It's for a reason every time, man.
Yeah, 100% believe in that. But yeah, so Penryn House in NA, that's how I got clean. That's how I stayed clean. It was just meetings. And it felt a bit weird at first because I walked in and it was full of full of heroin addicts and stuff, and I thought, I'm not even a heroin addict. Do you know what I mean? And instead of looking for the similarities, I was looking for the differences. You know, when I got married to my wife, I looked around the room when I was sat on the top table, and do you know what? 80% of the room was just full of recovering addicts. And I thought, do you know what? These are my people. Not all the people I used to hang around with when I was session, because none of them are around now. No, like that, because they weren't my mates. They were my associates. They wanted me around because I would stand and bang outside of a pub. I was fighting people's battles and stuff for them. But I swear now, all the people I got in my life are good, solid, positive connections in my life. They're all good people. And you know, there's a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. And I'm happy. I'm happy with my training. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with everything that's going in my life. And I believe the same as Stu. I believe that I've got God in my corner. And if I do lose, then that's what's planned for me. And then I'll wipe my mouth and I'll move on. But I just don't see anybody beating me at the moment. I'm just on the roll, and yeah. And if he does beat me, I will absolutely take my hat off to you, mate. And do you know what? You would beat the best version of me, mate. Yeah. So I would rate you really highly. I rate you anyway, mate. But you know, whoever does beat me, like, you know, I know I've got a time, like an expiry date on my dreams, and you know, I'm just putting that effort in now. So when it does come fighting night, you know. I'm a busy, active fighter, so I'm hoping that will play into my benefits of I'm not going to have no ring rust. Do you know what I mean? But we'll see. Do you know what I mean? We can all say this is going to happen, that's going to happen, but it's all on the night, isn't it? How we're feeling. Is there any injuries in fight camp? Did fight camp go well? There's so many moving parts that could go wrong, but you know. I know one thing, I'll be there on the night. I know Stu will be there on the night, and then I know everybody's going to get a good fight, and that's what we do it for. Modern day gladiators. Do you know what I mean? If we were back in the day, we'd be in gladiator skirts and we'd be having swords in our hands. Do you know what I mean? But the difference is, it's just a bit more modern, innit? And we've got boxing gloves on, and we're just there to entertain people, yeah. And that's what I live for, yeah.
So that being said, Jamie obviously thinks he's on a roll and he won't be stopped by any man. But how do you see the fight going, Stu? Tell us a little bit about. Have you got any predictions, or how you see the fight going in general?
I think to predict the fight's very complacent. I've never looked beyond Jamie. I've been offered other fights, but I don't even entertain them, because if I was to look beyond Jamie as well, it's stupid. But with Jamie, like, I don't really watch much. I'll never watch opponents, to be honest with you. I've seen your style. You're very similar to me. You bang, you southpaw. You have a low guard sometimes. I've seen your style a bit similar to mine. I think the first round's going to be a bit quiet, to be honest with you.